followed by part 3, which is all about our HD 70 candidates. We begin with their self-introductions, followed by questions that are presented by Save Texas moderators, as well as questions that were sent to us from our Save Texas community members and our youth members. While we do the question and answer session, we would encourage our audience to also send us questions. You will be able to enter it into the chat box. Sharmila will be monitoring these, and she will be calling out those questions. Finally, we have part 4, which is closing. We will allow our HD 70 candidates 2 minutes each to close. And then finally, I will give closing remarks. So again, thank you all so much for joining us. I'm going to shoot this to Shabir so that he can tell you how he will be keeping time.
I got an easy today. My job is the drill master. So for a 2-minute answer, I would actually give you a verbal warning 30 seconds before. And for a 1-minute answer, there's the later part of the program, I'll give a 15-second warning. And then when the time is up, I'm actually would have to cut you off. Sorry about that. Yeah.
Excellent. So we're off to the races.
And Saba, I just noticed Eero joined as well. So we had 3 of our guests on.
Excellent.
Talk to Joshua Murray. I tried to call, but it didn't connect.
Let me put myself on mute and try and reach him.
Okay. So while Sharmila is going to try to see if she can get hold of Joshua Murray, we're going to go right into our program and get started with our guest candidates. So our guest candidates get 2 minutes each to briefly explain their background and their platform. We will go in alphabetical order. So if Joshua doesn't arrive in time, we will skip him and probably catch him later on. So let's see. Alex Cornwallis is here. So we'll start with you, Alex.
Thank you so much, Saba. Thank you, everyone. Hi, everyone. I hope you all are having a great, wonderful Sunday. And my name is Alex Cornwallis, and I'm running for the Texas State Board of Education, District 12. By day, I'm a proud husband and even a prouder public school dad, a community member, and a cloud computing architect. Now, I'm running against an incumbent in November general election who is not a good state board member. In the past 4 years of the incumbent being in the office, we have seen chaos in our school board meetings throughout our county. We have seen a decline of reading, writing, and math score compared to other states. And we have seen vigilante book bannings. The incumbent did nothing to adequately address any of these. I'm running because our community deserves someone who cares and can deliver. Now, first, we need someone who can deliver on our curriculum. Next year, our math curriculum will be up for review. We don't want other states to show us up. If elected as a highly trained engineer, I have the necessary background to tackle this and show the country how great Texas schools and students are. Next, we need someone who can deliver for our public schools. The recent market condition has increased our property taxes. I'm committed to working with our local leaders to bring down your property tax rates, but I'm also prepared to hold any elected officials, no matter their party, accountable to our money, and make sure kids, students, and teachers know they have advocates like myself on the statewide level. Transparency is the key. And last, we need someone who can solve polarizing problems. And if elected, I'll work with legislators to create a statewide, bipartisan, effective committee to address complaints of books that are seen inappropriate or derogatory. This will make sure that there aren't any vigilante attempts, which is happening now, to break procedures by intimidation of our local school board members.
Alex, your time is up.
Friends, I know this is a lot, and thank you so much. The future is bright. I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you again.
Thank you, Alex. Sharmila, did we hear back from Josh?
Yeah, I'm trying to find the link to send.
Okay, we're going to
Josh is on.
I'm on.
Oh, you're on? Good.
Well,
All right.
welcome, right in time. So very quickly, we are at our guest candidate section where we are allowing each of our guest candidates 2 minutes to explain their platform. So you're on, Josh.
Hey, awesome. Apologize, I'm out driving, was in the middle of campaigning, so I was a little bit late here. So hey, my name is Joshua Murray. I am running and am going to be the next county judge of Collin County. The platform in which I'm running on is on transparency and accountability. And the way in which we're going to accomplish that is by ensuring that we have an adequate workforce to deliver and accomplish the mission of not only the county judge, but also the county commissioner's court. And that mission is to deliver services that include infrastructure, justice, public safety, and public health. The county judge has a direct responsibility when it comes to emergency management within that. And so if anybody recalls, over the last couple of years, we've been dealing with a little bit of a public health emergency. We've also dealt with an emergency in regards to infrastructure. And the response that we've had from our county judge is really to sit on the bench and not do anything. As the county judge of Collin County, I will not sit on the bench. I am dedicated to serving the people that elect me. And the way that we're going to do this is by having a 2-year and a 5-year plan that is going to outline our goals that we look to accomplish during my administration's first term. And annually, so every year, we're going to look at our goals and say, hey, did we actually accomplish that? And if we did not, we're going to determine why we did not. We're going to outline that to the people. And we, as in a government officials, will hold ourselves accountable by ensuring that we have all of the information and we get that out to the people, because we have resources at the county level. The main issue is that we do not market those or make those readily available at an easy manner for the people of Collin County. And as the next county judge, I am committed to making these services available and serving those people. Thank you very much. Once again, Joshua Murray, Collin County Judge. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. Okay, next up, Eero.
Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday. Thank you for having me. I'm Eero Amir. I'm the congressional candidate for District 4, which is the newly drawn district that now includes Collin County, or puts Collin County back in the original District 4. So I'm running against Pat Fallon, who's a freshman incumbent that's been in office, and he has voted against many of the issues or many of the policies that would be able to benefit District 4. Quick example of a few policies that he has voted against include being able to obtain placement to recognize women that have served on our Supreme Court. He voted against the creating an open world for natural hair. And most importantly, he voted against the International Islamophobia Act, which would create a department within the U.S. government to combat against Islamophobia and terrorist attacks that happen here in the U.S. As a former educator, I have always been an advocate for making sure that we have a strong education system. A strong education system allows people to be more tolerant of each other and to learn about who we are as individuals. I am a first-generation American. My parents immigrated to the United States from Nigeria in the 70s. So I understand the issues that occur right now in our immigration offices and how it impacts our families. And I want to be able to make sure that we are funding our departments so they can be more efficient.
30-second period with
Thank you.
30-second window.
Thank you.
Okay.
And then also, this November is a great opportunity for us to be able to make these changes that are necessary in our representation. So I hope that you all will vote for me in November so that we can get people that understand the values of our community and be able to have that proper representation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ro. It was wonderful having you. just a quick reminder, if everyone who's not speaking would mute yourselves, and those who are, if your cell phones would be on silent or vibrate. Thank you so much. Okay, our next guest speaker is Sandeep.
Yeah, thank you, Sabah. I hope I unmuted me. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. And nice to see you all. And my good luck to Mihaela and Cass for their runoff. And I'm Sandeep Srivastava. I am a Democrat nominee for Congressional District 3. And as you know, I learned this politics during my very young age. Growing up in India, my mother was Indira Congress leader for the city of Lucknow. So I grew up with a very prominent politician, regularly visiting our homes, or we were meeting them. And even as a young boy, I loved to discuss the issue with them. And I see how much they cared about the helping poor people, vulnerable people. And all these conversations inspired me and lit a fire in my spirit that I carry with me to this day. And in every community I have been part of, I have sought to serve the public for good. And that call to service is stronger than ever now. And truly our democracy is in danger today. Republicans in Texas are attacking women's rights, LGBTQ rights, and worst of all, our voting rights. And so okay, I'm the first South Asian immigrant nominated for a congressional seat for Texas. And once I elected, I will be the first South Asian congressman from the Texas. So it will create a history, and with the state where we have more than 1 million people of South Asian community. And my GOP opponent, as you know, Van Taylor has dropped, but the new person is a very radical right-winger running off.
Your time is up, Sandeep.
And endorsed by Michael Flynn. Thank you very much. I'll post my website in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sandeep. If all our guest candidates, as well as our main guest HD70 candidates, would leave your information in the chat, that would be lovely. So again, thank you to our guest candidates. We're now on to the main portion of our program, which is our HD70 runoff candidates. Our guests today are Cass and Mihaela. We will give each of our candidates 2 minutes for self-introduction by last name alphabetical order again. Please briefly explain your background and your platform. I will ask everyone to restrict the comments to your plans and policies and refrain from any negative comments about your challengers. I know both of you, so I'm very confident that won't be a problem. So Cass, you're up first.
Thank you so much, Saba, and hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Cassandra Garcia Hernandez, and I'm a candidate running for State Representative of House District 70. Just a little bit of information about myself. I was born in the Panhandle, and I was raised by 2 amazing grandparents and a single mother that taught me the importance of working hard and helping others. And so it's no surprise that I ended up within the profession that I am in. I am a lawyer, and I practice in immigration as well as civil law. I've had the honor of being part of great organizations here in North Texas that have helped me not only within the profession, but also helped me grow as a community advocate. Organizations like Catholic Charities, where I did pro bono work in asylum and refugee cases, Mexican American Bar Association, where I did pro bono, created a pro bono clinic that helped serve over 200 plus North Texas families, Genesis Women's Shelter, Hope's Door, and Texas Muslim Women's Foundation, which are 3 organizations close and near and dear to my heart, being a domestic violence survivor myself. Dallas Trial Lawyers Association, where I helped fight for immigrants at the DFW airport during the Muslim ban, as well as the DFW Muslim Bar Association, which I'm a member and will be actually co-sponsoring once again the Eid picnic on May 24th, which I hope all of y'all will be able to attend. You know, for the past decade, I've been fighting for Texans, not only within the courtroom, but also outside of the courtroom.
30-second warning.
Also outside of the courtroom. It was actually outside of the courtroom doing pro bono work in 2020 evictions when I saw firsthand how Texas Republicans not only do not take care of Texans, but they also attack Texans. And I said, enough is enough. I'm ready to run for office. And so I want to continue to be that advocate for those who feel voiceless. And I want to carry the voices of our diverse communities in House District 70 to Austin. And I have the skills, the resources, and the reputation to do that, which is why I'm in.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay.
Thank you, Cass, very much. Okay, it's Mihaela's turn.
Hi, everybody. My name is Mihaela Plesa, and I'm running to be your state representative in House District 70. A little bit about me. I was born and raised here in North Texas. I went through Plano ISD schools, went to University of North Texas, where I received a bachelor's degree in political science, and then went to SMU, where I received a master's degree in political science. After college, I stayed here in my community and helped women start their small businesses. I always stayed active, volunteering, protesting, marching. But in 2017, with the election of Trump, I realized that it just wasn't enough. We couldn't just show up to vote once a year and expect change. So I quit my small business job and I took my 2 political science degrees to Austin. At 32 years old, I took an unpaid internship position in a Democratic state rep's office to learn how to craft and pass meaningful legislation for the people of Texas. In the last 5 years, I have continued working for House members, passing over a dozen pieces of legislation with them, legislation like foster care reform, Medicaid expansion, and property tax relief for our veteran families. Now that I have a record of success, now that I have the experience, that I have been battle tested by the Texas legislature, I know that I can get to work on day one for the people of Texas.
30-second warning.
So that's a little bit about me, and I look forward to engaging in this conversation today. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you again, everyone, for coming. And a quick reminder, leave your information in our chat box. We are now going to move on to our next portion, which is the Q&A session. The Q&A session is divided into question and answer session from the Save Texas leadership. I, as your moderator, will direct you, ask you questions that were submitted from our own leadership. Following that, we will have an audience question and answer section. In the audience question and answer section, we have both collected questions that were already sent to us, and we will be taking the questions that you will be leaving for us in the chat box. So we're going to begin with moderator questions now. Once we begin the audience Q&A section, Sharmila will be monitoring for your questions in our chat box. All right, let's get started with the moderator questions. Here are the rules. These questions, each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to respond. We will again go by alphabetical order, thus Cass first, Mihaela second. All right, number 1, what do you know about the concerns that South Asian communities have, and what type of outreach have you done?
Thank you, Saba. So as I've been out block walking with all of my folks, my volunteers and canvassers, I've had the opportunity and the blessing to be able to speak to a lot of individuals in the South Asian community, and I've gotten a whole bunch of feedback. I know education is a very big concern. I also know that we have a very strong immigrant community as well. So being able to talk to them about the experiences that I've had and what I've seen firsthand in doing a lot of the pro bono work has been very helpful. In addition to that, healthcare as well. We've got a lot of individuals who are concerned about the uninsured rate and also as well the amount of medical debt that some folks have incurred as well, that a lot of Texans have incurred. And so I actually had a really good experience with one individual who also told me that he in his neighborhood had seen an influx of in particular South Asians being targeted in like robberies, car thefts, those type of things. And he said that he had actually reached out to the police department, and he felt that their voices were not being heard. And so, you know, I let him know that that is something that obviously I think all of us that are on the call are concerned about. And we want to make sure that we carry those diverse voices of course, South Asian, but all of our diverse communities within House District 70 that we
30-second warning.
Austin.
Thank you, Cass. Mihaela, do you need me to repeat the question for you?
No, I think I've got it.
Excellent.
So basically, education is on everybody's mind right now. We need to make sure that our kids have a modern education that is preparing them for a global workforce. So education, I think, is the number one thing. I think after that would be, you know, protections, gun laws, gun safety. I mean, we had one of the most conservative sessions last session, and we've essentially passed constitutional carry. With the hate crimes that we've been seeing all over the state and the nation, I believe that this is another issue of great concern. I have been attending, you know, community gatherings like this. I have been going to religious houses of worship. I've been engaging with voters in the district at the doors. And, you know, what I'm hearing also is voting rights, access to the ballot box. Are they going to be able to to vote? Are they going to be intimidated? So those are some of the things that I've been hearing. Also talking to some candidate or some people that have endorsed my campaign that are members of this community. They have reached out and told me that, you know, they would like to see, does that my time? Sorry, that they would like, that they would like to see changes around reproductive rights that we've been seeing. So I think these are some of the things that the South Asian community is worried about, and I'm ready to get to work to fix some of these issues next session.
Thank you very much, Mihaela. Okay, so proper segue into my next question, which is educational funding is a priority for South Asian voters. Both of you want to spend more state resources on education as well as healthcare. How are you going to fund these new recurring expenses? Please be as specific as possible. Cass, you're up.
Thank you, Saba. So I know how you phrased the question, but I'm actually not planning to spend more state resources. What I want to make sure is that what we are spending is going where it's intended, and that the state is not wastefully spending on things that should be spent on important things like education. Since the very beginning, as far as, you know, let me talk about healthcare first, but I've been the only candidate from the very beginning who has been campaigning on Live Well Texas, and being out and knocking on the doors and informing, in particular, House District 70 voters about that legislation has been honestly such a great experience, because people, as soon as they hear it, they say, well, why not Medicaid expansion? Live Well Texas is Medicaid expansion. And it is actually a bipartisan Medicaid bill that got super close to passing last legislative session. And the author of Live Well Texas, which is Representative Julie Johnson, which I'm happy to say has endorsed me, did a phenomenal job of reaching across the aisle and getting also Republicans on that bill as well. As far as, Live Well Texas, she was able to secure 76 signing members, but enough to pass the state house.
30-second warning.
Thank you, but it wasn't able to make it to the Senate. And Beto was just here recently. Beto actually said that Live Well was one of his top signing priorities if he was sworn into office as our next governor. So all of those are very important. Of course, I've been talking about the very beginning about recapture. I want to make sure there's transparency and that those payments are staying within the educational budget, and that Plano ISD is not in the deficit for the payments that we are sending back to in recapture. Being a product
Your time is up. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Subir.
Thank you. Okay, let's pass this on to Mihaela.
Great. So a couple of weeks ago, the comptroller put out a report basically saying that the state is going to have $23 billion. Let me repeat that, $23 billion in surplus funds next session. So the money to fund public education is there. We are getting that money from new internet sales taxes that we're seeing, $3 billion. We're also going to see revenue influxes from the federal government coming in, transportation money coming in. And as we're seeing all kinds of money going to the border. So the money is there. Though transparency is very good and needed, that doesn't necessarily solve the problem. The problem starts at the basic allotment. And for those that don't understand school funding, the basic allotment is the basic principle of what it costs to educate a child in the state of Texas. Right now, it's not based on anything, right? It's an arbitrary number. So what I would like to see is the state come in and basically create a study to say this is what it costs to educate modern day education of a student. Because what it costs to educate a student in Plano ISD is different than what it costs to educate a student in the Panhandle. And we need to have an accurate representation of where we're starting when we're building these types of budgets. So that's what I would like to see if we're going to go talk about public education and how we can accurately fund our state government.
Okay, thank you very much. We're on to our next question, moving along very smoothly. Thank you both very much. All right, as we all know, our current state ledge is Republican. So here's a big question on all of our minds. How will you manage to get things done if you are elected? Cass?
Thank you, Saba. One of the reasons I have the most support of sitting elected officials from every level of government is because of my expertise in negotiation and advocacy. I've been doing that quite some time, like I said, over a decade as a lawyer. I very often have to reach across the aisle and work with people that are adverse to myself and to my client to be able to find some kind of compromise. And when I'm not able to find compromise, then I know I got to take it to trial. That's the same way that I live my life and I practice, as just an individual outside of the practice of law. As a woman of color, a Catholic, someone married to an immigrant, a homeowner, and a taxpayer, my life is lived at many different intersections. And, I have a lot of local supporters, decision makers at the city, county, and state levels. And I'm prepared to bring all of those intersections together to make sure District 70 is better in November. And I've won support from the teachers union, law enforcement, and Democratic organizations too, because of the electability that those groups see in me and in my campaign.
Okay, so we are going to ask one more question before we move to the audience.
Oh, Saba, you didn't give Mihaela a chance to answer that question.
Oh, that's right. So sorry. Mihaela, your turn.
Yes. So as somebody who has been spending time at the Texas Capitol, I know that I can pass legislation and I can work across the aisle. I've been doing it for the last 5 years. I've actually passed Medicaid expansion legislation to a hospital in Bexar County. Unlike Live Well Texas that didn't get a hearing in committee, Representative Ray Lopez's bill got signed by the governor's office. So I have built those relationships across the aisle. I have worked with Republican senators to move our progressive legislation like foster care reform, like property tax exemptions for veterans, right? I have built those relationships with staffers within their offices. I know that when I get there, I can get committee hearings on my bills. I can move those bills to, calendar committees, get them out of calendars, make sure that members are aware of the importance of this bill for their districts. The number one thing that you hear is vote your district's members. So you need to make sure that you're meeting representatives where they're at as well and see that our interests are common. When you build those relationships with staffers, with representatives, with stakeholders, that is how you move legislation. That is how you get results for the people of Texas. I have been down there. I have a proven record of success. The representatives that I have worked for have all endorsed my campaign because they know I can get the job done. I've done it in their offices and they've endorsed me on my work ethic. So I'm ready to get to work. I'm ready to get to work and I'm ready to pass meaningful legislation for Texans.
Thank you so much, Mihaela. And again, sorry, I was looking at one of the chat in the boxes and I skipped you. But again, thank you so much. And I apologize greatly. We have one last question from the moderator section, and then we will move to the audience. Once we move to the audience section, we will be switching up the order in which you will respond. So once we get to the audience section, the first person who will respond will be Mihaela. The second will be Cass. So let's finish.
I would suggest Saba,
Yes.
let's just split because we've had Kaz respond twice. So for this question, let's have Mihaela go first.
Well,
if you
in
don't
that
mind.
case, absolutely. Let's go ahead and switch right now. Why not? Okay. Property taxes have been on the rise. What is your take on it? Let's go with you, Mihaela.
Yeah, I completely agree. As a homeowner, as somebody who's paid property taxes, absolutely, they're on the rise. Texas has some of the highest property taxes in the nation. And that's because the state is not willing to do its fair share. We need to fully fund our public schools. We need to make sure that charter schools aren't pulling money from our general revenue fund or our public education fund. We need to make sure that the governor isn't sending billions of dollars to the border for political optics. These are the kinds of things that are going to help us see property tax reform. Unfortunately, the state legislator does not set your property taxes. That's done at a local level. But what the state legislator can do is provide local entities more support and not stifle them. We need more local control. That's another way to make sure that our property taxes are manageable. We cannot have people not living in their homes, having to move out because they can't afford to pay a property tax on a house that they've owned for 25 years. So I'm ready to get to work. I have experience passing legislation and I have novel ideas to get the job done.
Thank you so much, Mihaela. It is Cass's turn.
Thanks, Saba. I totally agree. Me and my husband just got our appraisal just this last week and our property went up over 50,000. And I know that there's a lot of people here in Collin County that encountered the same thing. You know, we moved from Dallas County and the taxes over there was substantially different than Collin County. We know that Collin County is the highest in the state of Texas, especially just recently. And so I understand the stress that a lot of people are having in that regard, especially since those started coming out, all of the doors that we've been hitting, a lot of folks that we talk to at the doors are definitely concerned about that. And of course, a lot of that goes to education. I had the opportunity to sit with someone who really talked through the extent of how much the local taxes are needed to be raised. And they indicated that usually somewhere in between or close to 60% of the taxes actually go to education. Just a little bit of information, but back a while back, the state actually used to fund 50% of the education budget, and we're actually at 38% now. And so whenever you see that change, well, it's the local government that has to account for that change. And so that's why we see our taxes are very high in the areas.
30 seconds warning.
Thank you.
Go on.
Yeah, thank you. And that's why we see that increase. Absolutely, we have it within our funding to fully fund education. Texas can do that. And we need to stop allowing Texas to put funds where they don't belong. Education is important to all of Texans, and we need to make sure that we fully fund education, and therefore it'll translate to property taxes for all of Texans.
Thank you. Okay, excellent. So we are done with the host portion of the questions. We are moving to the audience section. So two things as we go forward with our audience section. We have collected several questions ahead of time. So we have a list of questions in our bag. We also have questions that are coming out as live. Sharmila is monitoring is monitoring the questions in our chat, and she will be asking those questions. But first, we will start with 2 of the questions that were sent to us via Save Youth. Those of you who are not aware, Save Texas has recently launched a Save Youth program. I am their chairperson, and our youngsters have sent us several questions, among which I have chosen 2 to begin with today. So again, we're doing in reverse order. So Mihaela goes first.
So this part of the answers is only 1 minute, so I'll give 15-second warning.
Okay, there you have it. So 1 minute for this part. Okay, number 1 question. In 2018 and 2020, we registered a record number of young people, but our voter turnout was low due to apathy and distrust. What have you done to outreach to young voters? Specifically, why should South Asian youth vote for you?
Great question. Yeah, great question. So recently, I actually went to the University of Dallas, the Richardson campus, and I was registering young voters, telling them about the runoff election. A lot of people don't even know what a runoff is. They think, okay, yeah, I went to go vote in the primary and it's over. So I think just engaging with young voters, educating them, talking to them, telling them why their vote matters. I think a lot of people were excited to find out how close Cass and I's race was. Those kinds of things are going to move voters. It's going to kind of shake off a little bit of the apathy that we've been seeing, especially now coming out of COVID. And I really think that just having a candidate that has a record of success that can say, I've been down there and I've actually been one of you guys with the dream of making change and I've done it. I think that's something that's going to get people out to vote and get excited about voting.
Excellent. We can now move on to you, Cass.
Sorry about that. I was trying to find the mute button. Well, first of all, I don't want young people, and in particular, Save Texas, I don't want y'all thinking that or beating up on yourselves about as far as the turnout. We already know that young people are historically the least likely to vote or register for many reasons. In particular, our campaign, the way that we are engaging, we've got a ton of millennials and Gen Z that are actually in our staff. And I was very purposeful whenever I did that, because I wanted to make sure that we had all of those diverse as well as those young progressive ideas about how to do things on a campaign, the things that we were, that we're wanting to accomplish, the things for the future. And so thank you. And I have those individuals in staff and leadership positions on my campaign. We provide meet and greet opportunities. We don't exclude anybody who's under the age of 21. Young voices absolutely shape my campaign, and we're engaging them online at the universities. And I'll be working with Gavin Nicholson to put together a internship program.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the last youth question, and then we're on to Sharmila, and she will ask the questions that are on our chat. How many doors have you personally knocked on? What have you learned about voters? Let's go with you, Mihaela.
In the whole campaign since October or in the runoff? The whole campaign since October, I've knocked 4,864 doors. And I think the most important thing that I've learned from the voters is that they want to feel heard. They're tired of feeling scared. They want more information. They want freedom to vote. They want freedom to get a good quality education. They want to make sure that their parents can afford to retire comfortably, that they can enjoy their retirement without fear of, not being able, getting sick and not being able to pay your
15 seconds.
insurance. So it's a lot of things. I don't think that there's one specific thing, but I definitely think that they're ready for change.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And your turn, Cass.
Thanks, Saba. So since I jumped into the race the Friday before December 13th, I've hit over 5,200 doors. And gosh, I don't even know it. I need to double check, but I know that's way more than that whenever you combine my whole campaign team. And that's because I love doing it. And I've been doing it for many, many years for other Democratic candidates, judicial, as well as state reps as well, including a few that have actually endorsed me. As we've been getting out there, you know, when I looked at the map, because I had my director pull it up, there's not a portion of the district that I haven't touched more than once. And I've learned that voters feel like they're on the outside looking in whenever we get to the door. And thank you. And I love it that they want someone like them. They want someone who cares about the community, who's been involved in the community and wants diverse voices to be carried to Austin. They don't want someone who has a mission to be a politician. And they appreciate that our campaign meets with them where they're at and doesn't make some people feel more important than others.
Time is up, Cass.
Thank you, Sabir.
Thank you so much, Cass. Okay, so we are now on to the audience questions in our chat box. Sharmila will be taking over for this portion. Thank you, Sharmila.
Hi, yeah, I'm going to start with Chetan. I'm going to let you ask your question yourself, Chetan. So why don't you unmute yourself and ask your questions? Chetan, ready?
Sure. Hi, I'm Chetan. I'm a voter in House District 70. I just graduated from college. And so it's great to hear you talk about how you'll fight Republicans on statewide issues. But I was wondering if you could speak more about the experience that you have serving our community within House District 70, and how will you prioritize constituent services and local issues if elected?
Maybe let Kaz go first this time.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you so much, Chetan, and congratulations. As far as being in House District 70, I've been living here well before November of this last year. I've been registered and voting in elections well before November. I sit on my HOA board for my community. I was the City of Dallas Ethics Commissioner up until the point that I decided to run for office, which City of Dallas is also, or at least a portion of it, is part of House District 70 as well. As far as, you know, reaching out and engaging the community, a lot of folks don't know this, but the state of Texas only gives you so much money for your staff. And I have been able to show that I am able to fundraise without self-funding or getting, you know, having somebody donate a $50,000
15-second warning.
check. Thank you. And it's really important that you're able to do that, because then you're able to pay for great staff to work not only in Austin, but locally. And I'm also going to create an internship program as well as individual groups that will be reporting to me about the issues in the community and the ways that we can make change.
Your time is up.
Thank you.
Hey, yeah, great question. I've been living here in my in HD 70 for the last 10 years. And while I've been living here, I've helped, get Democrats elected, like Sharon Hirsch. She came so close to winning against Matt Shaheen. And it's literally building those grassroots movements on the ground, registering voters, getting them educated about every election. I've also worked with women in their small businesses. I've helped, young entrepreneurs get access to capital to help start their businesses. I think it's really, really important that young people realize that they can make a difference even at a young age. You don't have to wait until you're older to be the CEO of your business. So
15-second warning.
So, those are just a couple of things. As a legislative director, we had, our interns pitch their bills to our state rep and say, can we file this? If they're good, they're filed, and then they get to work their legislation through the process. One of our interns last session proposed a bill for
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, finish that sentence.
Mihaela, host is saying, finish your sentence. I'm too strict.
Yeah.
No,
Just finish,
I was
wrap
just
up
gonna
and finish
say,
that sentence.
no, I was just gonna say, interns in our office do propose legislation, like one that got picked up by the LGBTQ caucus on non-binary driver's license. So that just shows that young people can make a difference at every sector.
Anyone else have a question? I know, Mukundan, you'd brought up a question about tampon taxes. I didn't know if you wanted to voice that.
Sure, I'll go ahead and ask that question. I read that in the morning, Dallas Morning News today. This seems like an issue that will be of interest to not only South Asian voters, but the core base of the Democratic Party, which is that tampons and other feminine products are taxed differently than, say, other bandages and other kind of similar products, and there seems to be a different tax rate. So I was wondering if you would speak to this and make this an issue. I had not heard about this before. Potentially you had talked about this, but I had not heard about this. So I want to hear your thoughts. I think it's Mihaela, right?
Yeah. No, this bill has been filed the last 3 legislative sessions, and we get it on the House floor, and we debate it, and we think it should have bipartisan support, and for whatever reason, it doesn't pass. Yes, we definitely need to do away with taxes on feminine products, but we also need to do away with taxes on a lot of products like condoms, for instance. We need to make sure that people have access to healthcare products that they need. But one thing that I would like to do just for my campaign is expand the conversation around women's healthcare to not just be about abortion or tampon tax. Women need access to fertility treatments. A lot of people don't know that for a woman to freeze her eggs in the state of Texas, it can cost upwards of $10,000, maybe even more a month.
Warning.
So I'd like to talk about pregnancy discrimination and things like that. But yes, we should definitely do away with the tampon tax.
Cass, I believe.
Yes, sorry. I keep having a hard time finding this mute button. Absolutely. I totally agree as far as the fact that we need to fight to repeal this tampon tax. I mean, we know who it affects the most, and it's low income women. And those are the folks that do not need to be worrying about things like that, especially when we already know that women get paid less per dollar per men. Women deserve better, and we need to fight to repeal this particular tax. As far as the lawsuit, I read the same article as well. I know that they are attacking it on constitutional issues. I applaud them for doing it. I know that some of these lawsuits have been effective in other states to push Austin or their capitals to effectively take it into consideration and take it seriously. Because like Plesa had said, it had been brought up.
Warning.
Thank you. It had been brought up 3 times in the past. Well, maybe this lawsuit will finally be what finally allows them to take it seriously. And if I go to Austin, I absolutely will fight to repeal this particular tax. Thank you.
Sorry, we have a last question here. I think we'll have to wrap up after this one. This is from Chanda. How did you feel about our House reps leaving the state to protect voting rights? Would you have done the same? And I think it's Cass this time.
So great question. And I think both me and Mihaela agreed on this particular topic when we were asked about it by Dallas Morning News. Absolutely, we would have been with our people. I know she obviously has a different aspect of being there and what went on behind the scenes, but we saw exactly what was going to happen if they didn't go. This was a absolutely important, voting rights is the utmost importance. So the fact that our state reps, some of them, I know it was a tough situation, but yes, I would have, and I'm proud of what they did because we saw what happened with the vote by mail after the fact. It was exactly what they anticipated was going to happen by the passing of that law. And we are going to continue to keep seeing those after effects. We know here in Collin County, it was double-digit rejections of vote by mails. And I know that Bruce came out and said that that has never happened here in Collin County. And so absolutely, I applaud them for doing that. And if I would have been in the same situation with them, I would have been proud to be right next to them.
Thank you so much for asking this question. This is probably one of the most important questions that can be asked in a Democratic primary. I would not only leave, I would have never come back. When our state reps came back, some of the most discriminatory pieces of legislation passed. And that is why I'm running for office, because I believe they were missing courageous leadership down in Austin. I was personally offended when I found out that there were state reps that went on vacation while my boss was in DC fighting for our voting rights. I was personally offended when I saw members come back to protect their House districts while my boss, who had just suffered a heart attack a year ago, was needing his staff to mail him his heart medicine. These things are not jokes. These are people's lives. When we go back in next session, we might not have a quorum to break. Democrats might not have enough members sitting on the House floor to have that legislative tool. That is why House District 70 is so important. That is why the representation that we're sending to Austin is so important. I have not accepted one dime of special interest money, and I have not accepted an endorsement from somebody that I don't agree with their policies. When I go to Austin, I will be an independent voice for the people of House District 70 with the experience to get things done. I will be speaking to the people, for the people. That is why I have focused my interests on getting the most community endorsements. That is why the most Democratic precinct chairs from within our district are supporting my campaign. And that is why all the Democratic clubs within Collin County that are within HD 70 are supporting my campaign, because I have focused on the people, because I am from this community, because I know what's at stake next session.
Saba, I'm kind of not quite sure where we are time-wise. Do we have time for more questions, or are you ready to wrap up?
We still have some time for questions. So we're on track. So if there are any last questions at the chat box, we could take a few more.
Okay. Chanda, did you want to ask your question?
I'm so excited to see two very strong women running for this office. Women move mountains. And so that's my question for both of you. I was so proud of Victoria Neave, passing through those rape kits, which was, a monumental achievement for women in Texas. And we're so marginalized. So I'd like to ask both of you what mountain are you going to move for women in Texas? Well, it doesn't have to be just for women, but what mountain are you going to move for us?
Me first, or who? Yeah, no, for me, sorry. For me, obvious, this is going to be a very simple answer. I really want to talk about fertility access. We talk about we're a pro-family state, but we don't know how hard it is for women to start a family if you can't, if you have issues. And so that's the mountain that I would like to move. I know also if you come down with cancer in our state and you need to freeze your eggs or you need to freeze your sperm, that is not covered under insurance. These are pro-family bills that we are not putting importance on. So my mountain for women would be fertility access, making it more affordable so all women can have access to a family.
Thank you for that question, Shonda. So Representative Nyave, I'm actually absolutely honored to have her endorsement and her support. She's been a mentor to me for many, many years. And actually, she's one of the state reps that I used to block walk for back in the day. But I know in particular that rape kit issue that she took on, it was monumental. And one of the monumental things that I want to take on as somebody who benefited from Robinhood is to fix Robinhood program for there to be transparency and for us to keep those funds within education. Because I'm not sure if a lot of people are on the call right now, but those funds can actually be used in other places. And we know that education is so important to Texans. I mean, it's our future. Our children are our future. We need to make sure that we have a very educated workforce, and Texas has the funds to be able to fully fund that. We need to make sure that that happens, but we do also need to make sure with any recapture payments that are taken related to Robinhood, that those are used for education purposes and not for other purposes. Thank you.
Okay, I don't see any more questions. If there's anyone in the audience that did not type in a question, would like to ask one, maybe you could raise your hand or go ahead and ask it.
Sharmila, looks like there is one from a Jeremy Matthews.
Ah, Jeremy, I missed that. Okay. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Yeah, I was just wondering, what can we do in Texas to reduce unwanted pregnancies? This is sort of taking a different angle than I know Mihaela's issue, but there is also, abortion is a big issue, but I think all sides could agree, hopefully, that we would want to reduce unwanted pregnancy. So what do the two candidates think can be done to improve sex ed, particularly for young people, and also just to have better access to contraception?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So you hit the nail right on the head. It's sex ed. We've actually been reducing the amount of money that we're putting into teaching our kids, basic, what's an STD, these things that we used to teach, we're not teaching them anymore. So I think sex ed is the number one thing that's going to help unwanted pregnancies. Putting more money into things like Planned Parenthood instead of taking money out of those types of institutions would also help us. The thing about our state is that we are trying to do a lot. And when doing that, we make, things happen that we don't want them to happen, right? We cut sex ed out, so then we see a spike in unwanted pregnancies. I think that if we put the money into things that we know work, because they've been implemented in our state, that we've just taken them out, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I think that that's what we can start. And it's knowing what those things were to help us get back to where we were. If that makes sense.
Hey, Jeremy, great question. So I will tell you, as somebody, a generational user of Planned Parenthood, I can't tell you how much that Planned Parenthood is absolutely important to women, in particular, women that are low income. And the fact that they were removed out of the Medicaid program was absolutely detrimental to not only the program of Planned Parenthood and all of the great things that they do for the state of Texas, but for women in particular areas of where I was born, up in the Panhandle. You can't find clinics anywhere close by there that provide those type of services or are more expensive. So what you see is that women forego those things and end up getting pregnant, even though had they had that access, they most likely would have used them. And so I absolutely believe that we need to make sure that Planned Parenthood and other organizations like Planned Parenthood, especially in those particular areas and all over Texas, need to be added back to the Medicaid program. In addition to, of course, absolutely, we need to make sure that our sexual education courses in school are, very robust. We don't need to be taking funds out of them. And we also need to make sure that they are very effective, because what we're seeing in particular on the Republican side, that they have been coming for our schools and what's being taught in schools. So it's, what's the level of us being able to, effectively call out their hypocrisy on how their stance on abortion is one thing, but they don't want to actually give women the ability to be able to plan pregnancies whenever they are not fully funding sexual education, and they're pulling programs like Planned Parenthood off of Medicaid.
Thank you so much. Both of you made great points. We really appreciate that. Sharmila, I noticed that Alex has his hands up.
Alex, so you had a question for us,
Yes,
for the
yes.
candidates?
Yes, I do have a question for the candidates. It's very informative. Thank you both. Now, I know we spoke about tampon tax earlier, but I wanted to also bring to the light, there's the diaper tax as well. And as a father of 5, I go through a lot of diapers, so I totally understand that. So what would be your positions, both of you, in terms of fixing that? That shouldn't be taxed at all. So diaper tax is very crucial, and especially people who have a lot of children.
Happy
go first.
Yeah, happy to take that one. I think it's the same position that I have on the tampon tax. It absolutely affects, in particular, low income families. I mean, I know both you and your wife are so lovely, and I'm sure that, having to pay for all those Pampers is probably substantially different than somebody who's probably a fraction of what y'all's income is. And so that's when we see families severely impacted by that. By, doing pro bono work in 2020 evictions, I saw first and forehand where a lot of families, they forgo really important things like that when they have to choose between, keeping a roof over their head and whether they can afford Pampers or not. And so, doing away with taxes on things that are absolutely essential and a necessity for families, I am absolutely behind that. So thank you, Alex, for that question.
So as someone whose best friend just had a baby, I am aware now that children go through 50 diaper changes per week. So that sounds like a lot of money. And I also know that 35 states have either done away or lowered the diaper tax. So if 35 other states can do it, I think that Texas can as well. Same thing with the tampon tax, same thing with the condom tax. I look at these items more as medical necessities than, a commodity essentially. So yes, I think that there is definitely room to lessen the tax, not whether or not we can do away with it completely. That's one thing, but we can definitely lessen that burden on people. And once again, I'm ready to get to work to do that. I have worked budget nights down in Austin. I know how to appropriate funds. I've written a budget writer. I'm ready to go. I just need you guys to send me to the State House.
Thank you. That was a great session.
Mila, I had one quick question. One last question, if we have like 5 minutes. So recently, Biden administration dropped their fight over the Texas Medicaid waiver. So as candidates, do you think the Medicaid waiver is a better option for Texas, or expansion of the Medicaid as such is a better option? Because I think Republicans are just getting away with not expanding Medicaid, basically having their cake and eating it too. So what's your position on this? Yeah, I'm talking about the 1115 waiver 1115.
Who should go first?
I think it's Mihaela this time.
Yeah, no, look, whether we're doing a waiver or an expansion, we need to do something. I I would like to see an expansion. My number one concern right now, though, isn't so much, I don't think next session we will see expansion, honestly. But what I do know is that 1.3 million people are about to get dropped off Medicaid because we're about to go out of the pandemic health emergency, the PHE, right? And so we are going to have to redetermine if these 1.3 million people qualify. And sometimes that takes up to 70 days, right? So my fear is that people aren't going to get their insulin, their psych meds, these types of things for 70 days. So I would be in favor of whatever it is to get people insured in the state of Texas, because right now we're the least insured state. And I think going into next session, my number one priority would be to save these 1.3 million Texans from being dropped off of our Medicaid rolls, whether we do text messages through HHSC, do mailers, whatever it is. We need to let these people know that they need to reapply and that they need to stay on the care that they can get.
Thanks for that question, Rekha. So I know I talked a little bit earlier about the Live Well Texas. Some people don't know, but as far as the way that Medicaid works is that we get matching federal dollars, 90 federal dollars for every 10 state dollars to be exact. And I absolutely want to make sure that we have Medicaid expansion. Although we haven't been able to do it at this point, I do believe that in particular, Representative Julie Johnson's Live Well Texas has been very effective in being able to at least get enough 76 signing members that would be able, that would be sufficient in order to pass the state house. So I am absolutely standing behind that. I want to make sure that that gets pushed through. I want to make sure that I'm standing next to Representative Johnson and that gets passed. But I also agree with Plesa, whatever we got to do to continue to keep those folks on there. You know, even if Live Well Texas was not able to get passed, we got to do whatever we can to make sure that we keep Texans able to pay for healthcare costs, because we all know that healthcare costs are very high. And I see day in and day out a lot of folks who end up actually having to declare bankruptcy due to healthcare costs. And I don't want to see any more Texans go through that, especially knowing that we have the highest uninsured rate than any other state.
Thank you. Well, we're going to truly close on questions now. Saba, let's lead off to the next portion, which is the wrap up. Before I hand over to Saba, just personally wanted to thank everybody that participated. Good, active conversation. Thank you to all our guests and our two main speakers. And I'm going to hand off to Saba to close, wrap up. Thanks.
Thank you so much to my co-host Sharmila, as well as to our timekeeper Shabir. Thank you to all of our audiences, and in most particularly, thank you to Cass and Mihaela. It has been an honor and a pleasure to see two such amazingly strong women candidates running, and to have you here to engage us and have this beautiful open discussion with us. So thank you so much. So we are at the final portion of our program today, which is the closing and the wrapping up. Each of our candidates will have 1 minute each to close. And we will begin with Mihaela.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to speak with you guys and tell you a little bit about my policy priorities. Look, Texans have suffered enough, both the financial cost and the loss of life due to the lack of courageous leadership in Austin. We do not have any more time to waste on talking points and empty promises. We need results. I am the only candidate in this race who has learned the process of passing legislation. I have worked across the aisle to move our Democratic priorities successfully, and I have a true and honest call to service. I haven't accepted any special interest money, and all these things make me a stronger candidate to win a general election. If we want to elect a Democrat for Collin County, that is going to be done in May, not in November. We need to elect the right candidate, and I know that I am that candidate. I have the most local endorsements from sitting Democratic precinct chairs. I have the endorsement of Plano area Democrats, Richardson area Democrats, and I am ready to serve the constituents of House District 70. My name is Mihaela Plesa, and I am asking for your vote on May 24th. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Cass, it's your turn.
Thank you all so much for inviting me to be here and be part of this wonderful discussion. It really is important. It's very impactful, not only in the South Asian community, but all of our communities. Quite a lot has happened since December 13th. Since that time, I ended up, even though I was the last one to join the race, I ended up coming out on top. I did get the most votes of any other Democratic candidate for House District 70. And there's a reason why. In particular, it's because I have the knowledge, the skills, and the heart to make sure that we send a Democrat to Austin in November. I have the most state rep endorsements of any other folks. And of course, local endorsements are so important. But when it comes down to it, when you go to Austin, those are the folks you're going to be working with to pass bills. And I have all of those endorsements. In addition to that, I'm the only one endorsed by state rep leadership. I'm the only one endorsed by teachers, the only one endorsed by law enforcement. And up to this point, as far as fundraising, I'm the only one that has continuously out fundraised both Democrats and Republicans as far as fundraising, not doing alone, not writing myself a check or anything like that. And that's going to be very important because we know how expensive this race is going to be. We are going to be going up against a well-funded Republican, and we need to make sure that we've got somebody who has the resources and the funding in order to make sure that we send a Democrat to Austin. And I want to be that state representative that carries our diverse voices of House District 70 to Austin. Thank you so much. And thank you again for having me.
Thank you so much, Cass. So again, thank you so much to both of our HD 70 candidates, Mihaela and Cass. If you know who you absolutely adore and you have time, I highly recommend you join one of these two amazing ladies' platforms and help them. As for our other guests who came, I do want to make sure to give a quick shout out to them because they were amazing as well. So Alex, Joshua, Eero, and Sandeep, thank you for joining us. I highly encourage everyone to keep track of our early voting, which is starting very shortly. It starts May 16th and runs until May 20th, and election day is May 24th. So let's keep track of our time. If you have questions, concerns, reach out to the various organizations that you know are active and engaged. In particular, follow Save Texas on our YouTube channel, on our Instagram, Save Youth as well on our Instagram. And I have our website on the chat box. To our candidates who visited, please feel free to leave your information in the chat box. And to everyone who's here today, I'm so very grateful. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Saba. Thanks, Sharmila, for putting this on for us.
Thank you.
Our wonderful moderators. And Sabir on timekeeping. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's great to see you guys again. Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.
Good luck to both of you. Yeah.
Thank you.